As entrepreneurs, we all have a reason why we chose to leave our 9 to 5 for an 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm here to capture the stories of why we all hustle and grind for our companies. Terry Rich, a dynamic CEO and president for 25 years, boosted state lottery sales and led the Blank Park Zoo to profitability. Known for his expertise in business, gaming, TV production, and marketing, Terry is also a celebrated public speaker and has given away over $1 billion. He led the team that uncovered the largest lottery fraud in U.S. history, showcasing his adaptability and integrity. An entrepreneur with 4 successful businesses, Terry has appeared on major media outlets like ABC, NBC, and CNN. Terry's energetic keynotes are perfect for any event. He has authored 2 books, The $80 Billion Gamble and Dare to Dream, Dare to Act. So, Terry, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate you.
Always a good time, and let's have some fun.
So, in preparing for this episode and reading through your bio, you have some of the most, there's so many stories. It just seems like this is going to be about 5 episodes worth of content. But I'd like you to just briefly go over, what do you do? Like, what is your ninja skill?
I think creating ideas, becoming kind of the idea dude is what I like the most. I like having fun. You know, I grew up on a farm, and I found that encouragement is everything from parents. And they always encourage me. Even if I fail, they encourage me to keep trying things. But I liked math a lot, so I thought I'd be a math major. And then someone said, you can go over here and talk and make a living. I said, I'm in. So I started in TV and radio and cable television, worked rock and roll radio as a DJ on the weekends. But in that cable television, I had 2 or 3 big breaks. One was a failure. I started by writing to Gillette and telling them how much I loved their Track 2 razor. And because I didn't have a 5 o'clock shadow, I was doing some TV work. And so I wrote to them knowing in 2 weeks I'd be on TV and I'd be doing national television spots. Well, they wrote me and told me I wrote their own company, but it gave me an incentive to try to be on TV somehow. And because I was in the cable business, I had that opportunity. But then my big break came up when I was 29. I had the opportunity to be on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show as a guest. They replayed it 2 years later, but it was an experience that immediately was like social media. I'd never seen. 20 million people watched an episode from a little promotion that I put together and wrote my first press release to do. From there, I took that idea. They were talking about uplinking from our little hometown from the Tonight Show for the very first time. And I took that idea because I was working with HBO to start HBO free previews. So I would get on, we would show free movies. And then in between I go, hey, you know, now's the time to order, get HBO right now. And the first time we did it, we sold $15 million worth of HBO. So that kind of took me to the next step at 40 when they tried to cash out and take over our cable company. And lo and behold, we did a leverage buyout and I got this big check and I thought, wow, you know, what do I do now? I just got off the farm. I've been in cable television. I had fun working with the Ted Turners of the world. So I decided to start my own companies. And that's where the entrepreneurial spirit really kicked in. I learned that from the business I was in. I tell anybody who's starting a new business to get into a company and learn the economics of legal and things that you don't think about, insurance and overhead and all those sort of things. And it really helped me because I took 10 years and did this for ESPN and HBO and all these different companies. And at age 50, guess what? Midlife crisis. So I came back to be with the family and I got a call from an ex-governor who said, they're going to close the zoo. They're losing $600,000 a year. Would you like to run a zoo? Grew up on a farm. What the heck could be much different? So ran a zoo for 8 years. We turned it around, raised $15 million in endowment, and it's going to be there forever. And then I got a call from the current governor at the time to say, would you like to run the lottery? Well, you know, that was 3.5 million for the zoo and 350 million in control at the lottery. And then, well, why not? And then all of a sudden I hit the wall with the lottery fraud, the largest lottery fraud in US history, and had the opportunity to help crack that. And so today I'm retired and I love traveling and telling the stories about ideas, creating ideas, and why it's important to embrace change and also kind of watch for the internal frauds that happen in our world. How about that for a story?
That is an amazing, that is a lot of different careers. And I
4
love
different ones. Yeah.
I think we have something in common there too. For me, it's like, I'm going to go do something because, gee, that kind of seems cool. Let's go do it. You know, I've always been that way.
Love the challenge. And every day, even when I go get groceries, I'm thinking, okay, I made that in 2 minutes. So can I get there in 1 minute and 56 seconds the next time? There's so many opportunities to do that. And everybody has $1 million idea. The question is, you dare to dream it. Why don't you dare to act on it? And most people get afraid to do that.
Yeah, exactly, because it's different than what they were taught. So I think that's one of the big differences and kind of one of the core concepts behind the podcast is that there's the 9 to 5 world and there's the 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. world, the entrepreneur world. And there's a reason entrepreneurs work those long hours, and we're always on because we have those ideas, because we're out there to change things, because it's like, I don't accept reality. I substitute my own. I want to go out and do this. I want to go do cool
Now,
things like
just
what you're doing.
between
Like,
you and
say,
I, before we get done today, can I give you $2 million ideas I'm working that anybody can get in and help me on when we get done? Don't let me forget to mention those. Okay, at the end,
the 2 million, absolutely. I will
two
make
$1
sure.
million ideas, just like
Two
that.
$1 million. I will
Okay,
make
go ahead.
sure to I will make sure to remind you at the end of it. Absolutely. But now, so as I'm doing kind of going back through your bio and everything, as far as the getting ready for the podcast today, there is a story behind busting the biggest lottery fraud ring, and there was a really unique spin that you put on this story, and I would love to hear it, having to do with a very common food.
That's
Believe
right.
it.
That's right. People work really hard to make a lot of money, but often they don't oversee or hire the right people to oversee, to have the checks and balances. Because anytime you hire someone, they could be your friend, your cousin, your aunt, best in the world, like in a church. But at some point, they could get in trouble with divorce, any kind of money problems. Of course, there's three things they talk about: money, opportunity, and also rationale. At what point do you say, I'm going to do this because I deserve it, type thing? Well, I got in the middle of it. I love promotions, as you can probably tell. But we busted the largest lottery fraud in U.S. history by obviously using a lottery ticket, which has all sorts of security features on it, because the person who did it bought 2 hot dogs, and because his brother was a Bigfoot hunter, and that by hunting Bigfoot spilled the entire beans because he lied in a court deposition. So that's how we cracked the largest lottery fraud in U.S. history.
Through buying a hot dog, and then that's
So
that's
you can
really amazing.
imagine, here we go. He walks into a
Yeah,
store. He was unlucky that day because he walked into a store to buy a lottery ticket. The
yeah.
lottery ticket won. He was on camera. But at the time, most people also didn't have audio, but that store had audio. So he covered himself in a hoodie, but he didn't realize there was audio. So when we actually released the video and audio, someone said, wait a minute, that's Eddie Tipton. The second thing he did as he bought that was to buy 2 hot dogs. And when it all ended up that we had him in court, they decided to have a little pep talk from his brother to come up, who was a peace officer from Texas. And the thing that blew it wide open, that it became a national fraud when it was all said and done in many states, was he said, I looked at that video and that guy was eating hot dogs. My brother doesn't eat hot dogs. And everybody went, whoosh, looked right at Eddie. And the guy's 350 pounds, I suppose. And an AP reporter wrote a story that said, hey, they talked about these hot dogs, which then appeared in his brother's hometown. And an FBI agent and another person said, wait a minute, we investigated that guy on lottery fraud, or on money laundering. And he told us when he was in the hospital because he fell out of a tree that he won a lottery in Colorado. This seems screwy. So they sent it up to us. And if you ever do anything illegally, don't use your phone or use your social media, because we combined all of that together and realized that it was a 3 or 4 person deal on the inside, and that he was in the hospital because he fell out of a tree stand hunting Bigfoot.
Huh. Interesting. So normally that would be, we'd be wondering about somebody's mental condition if they're hunting Bigfoot, but frankly, in this point, I think
Maybe.
just the baseline's different.
Yeah. No, there's just something about the whole story that was really intriguing. And again, I grew up in the media world and utilizing the media to be very open as the head of a government agency. Say we're going to do whatever it takes to bust this. If this had probably been done in many other states, that has said just shut up, pay it, because we need the money, because we make a lot of money on the lottery each year. Where our governor and I felt very strongly, we're going to do whatever we can because we want the game fair and honest. Otherwise, down the road, people won't play. And I'm sure Eddie now has served his time, as has his brother and the other, and the story's over. But it's a pretty crazy story to be told.
It really is, especially the way that you set it up going, I stopped one of the largest lottery heists in US history with a hot dog. I just had to hear how the correlation was there because that's just so random.
If he had not bought a hot dog, if his brother hadn't worked with Bigfoot, and if he hadn't purchased that ticket in a convenience store that had both video and audio, because he covered his face with the video, or if they just sent somebody in a hooded sweatshirt, we probably would have paid it, and we wouldn't be talking today.
Exactly. So wild thing. But it brings up a really good point. And you kind of alluded to this earlier, where in business, this can be a problem. And I know a couple of friends who have had issues with folks taking advantage, meaning they got screwed and just frankly, and it's something that as entrepreneurs, we're always worried about. You don't want to be paranoid, but there's got to be some way for us to protect ourselves. And so based on
Absolutely.
that experience, what are some of the things that you see? What are some of the patterns like that you would see in someone who might be doing these things? And how do you protect yourself from it?
As an entrepreneur, I'm always thinking sales, 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 right?
Mhm.
But now going through this, I think accounting and legal and oversight. Again, the three concepts the American certified fraud examiners say that, financial need is one. We all need more money, but when you have a divorce, you're drinking, you have some major problem, you've hired Aunt Sue, but she's out gambling and losing her money. And you finally get desperate and think, I need money. Well, if you write the checks and the POs, especially in a small company, you have the opportunity. This guy could write the code. He put the code in the computer. He oversaw the computer. So he had all the keys to the kingdom. So just a simple thing, if nothing else, is when you hire someone, they sign something that says, if you are caught, you will be prosecuted or you will be fired. Gives them that little devil on the shoulder. I better not do it because I signed something and I understand what's going to happen to me. That's the opportunity, the financial need. The final piece is the rationale. And most of the time, and even in this case, it's that, hey, Joe over here is making more money. He's getting more paid more than I deserve it. It's more of the I deserve it. But if they don't have the opportunity by having the purchase order and the checks being written by just one person, they don't have the others, or Aunt Sue has her hand in the till because no one can see it because it's cash. It helps create that blockage that helps create the internal fraud.
Now, and you keep kind of alluding to, it's Aunt Sue or Uncle Bob or something like that. And as far as like hiring family, which I don't know if I would do. It's
Well, you
something about
trust them
that.
too much, right? I mean, you leave it
Yeah.
alone. At least if you don't know, I always said when an auditor came in, the state auditor came in, people get scared, all the other departments in the state government. Oh my God, we don't want the auditor in here. And I would say, come on in, because they only do a pre-conference. If I thought something might be happening, new purchasing agent or something like that, I would tell the auditor, here's one that I'd like to have you look at, because I might be afraid to fire that person or challenge them because they may sue me. Everybody's worried about. Where if the auditor comes back and says, hey, I think you ought to check this, I have a reason to go check it. And now it's much easier to take a look. And then if nothing else, the purchasing agent or the whoever's handling money, the accountant will say, geez, they're watching this stuff and the auditor's coming back. I better not do it. That's all you really need.
Mhm. One of my favorite quotes ever was Ronald Reagan, trust but verify.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it's applicable in so many different, aspects of life, especially as entrepreneurs. Sometimes it's just good I trust you. I just want to verify, and it's good for everyone as well. So now if the auditor came in and said, nope, you're clean, you're clear, everything's good, you also have this other sort of validation that, nope, you're good, it's fine. And just to be
Absolutely.
sure. So yeah,
And,
I
and
agree.
we talk about entrepreneurs. I think the hardest part for me as an entrepreneur is you make a little money. It would be easy to blow it all at once. I always found that when I finally started making money in my own companies, I would always take 10% and call it R&D. And that's the money I played with. Some people like to gamble. I like to gamble on another company to try to build it even bigger and bigger. But I didn't gamble with the entire 100%. Too many people go out and refinance everything to look at that next step in life, where you really want to only have a portion of that. Now, the more money you make, the less risk many people also want to take. And that's why I always encourage people to have a little R&D development money, so that you're always trying something that you wake up in the middle and I say, oh my God, what if we could do this? You spend the money, but if you lose it, you don't care. It's just like gambling. You go in and gamble, go with $100. And if you lose it, don't reach back in your pocket. You're done. You had that and you call it entertainment money. But if you make some money, now you're really, really happy. And it's much like what business should be like in evaluating and doing risk mitigation, I guess.
And it's play money. I mean, it's something that, and especially us as entrepreneurs, we love, like you said, you're the ideas dude. We love to create. We love to see what we can do. We love to push boundaries. We love to do that thing. And I think, having something budgeted aside instead of throwing everything at it, which would put you out of business pretty quickly, having a little bit set aside, going,
Absolutely.
here's my little bit. I'm going to go try to see if this works. Google does it. 20% of their employees' time is dedicated towards side projects and little kind of side hustles they have. That's how Gmail came to be. And
Absolutely.
so there's really, even large corporations do something similar to that. So I think I love that a lot. I really like that a
I
lot.
like I like the quote. It's better to have tried and failed than to succeed at doing nothing. And great entrepreneurs, Ted Turner, who I got to really know, was absolutely crazy, but he would rather try and fail than to succeed at doing nothing. But again, you try to take the least risk you can as you're trying something new, because failure really is the first step to success. If you think about it, most project managers and companies, they set everything up. On this date we're going to do this state we're going to do this, we're going to spend this much money, and the success is going to come here. And what they don't do is think about NASA. What if they would have done that and said 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3 people to the moon, we'll see you in 2 weeks, we planned it out. They failed over 90% of the time. That first mission to the moon failed in course correcting over 90% of the time. And if you realize that, then you realize that you always, if you do fail, that you got to find a different way. Most people, I got a great idea. It's $1 million idea. So you put it down, and one little stumble, they don't make it on the first step. I'm done. I'm never trying this again. So you really want to keep in mind that most people who are very successful have failed, and they don't realize that. You see the success, you see people with a lot of money, but I guarantee every CEO that in my breakfast club, they stand up and they say, Susie's going to Yale, Johnny's going to Harvard. And you think, oh man, they got it made. But Billy, Jesus, we have no idea what the heck's happened with that kid. Everybody has their own failures.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a good friend of mine, Sean, that said that his success formula is failure plus persistence equals success.
You got it.
And he's got a ton of stories behind that, and how, I mean, Kevin O'Leary is one of his business partners, and he thought he almost failed pitching to him in a business. There's a whole story behind that. That's another podcast episode that he goes into that, but which was really an interesting moment. But it's one of those things where I think that's one of the things as entrepreneurs that we're good at. We're good at stress. We're good at knowing how to make a decision based on a vision versus what exactly we think is going to go the right way, versus trying to make sure everything goes the right way.
Yeah.
We're really good at just jumping and going, we're just going to do this. We might completely fail, but mistake is another word for learn. Another good friend of mine has that quote. Another mistake is another good word for learn. And sometimes you're an example of what to do, sometimes you're an example of what not to do, but you're still a good example.
I learned something in wine country. It brought a philosophy up for me, and that is, you think of a bushel basket. When you go to wine country, they aren't just going out behind their business and picking only one grapevine that they've had for 100 years and trying to win the award winning. They go all across the valley and they pick different kind of grapes depending on the soil, the weather that year, to try to find the right one. So they get 100 different grapes in there, 100 different variety, and diversity, because today's world, as an entrepreneur, you can serve the world now, not just your little your own little community. So you got 100 grapes, and so you put that all together. They're very diverse, and you figure out which one you're going to use. And then that's step number one. So there's no judgment. You're out grabbing everything you can to taste and see where it's at. The second step, that's daring to dream. The second step is daring to act. So you take all of those ideas and you allow everyone to get together, so that the accountants can say that's going to cost too much. The attorneys say you're going to get sued. Sales says, I don't know if I can sell that much. Everybody together kind of evaluates, takes those 100 ideas, raises them to the top 2 or 3. Now you have a team effort that's going to take the next step. So I like dividing up, coming up with the ideas and doing it. Coming up with the idea to dare to dream is always no judgment, absolutely no judgment. Every idea is a good idea. Then you get your group around and advisors, because I'm not that good in legal and that good in accounting and auditing, but all of those gives me the idea. And then when we all get together and say it's a great idea, now we've got a team effort to be able to move ahead.
Mm-hmm. And it's an old saying that, work your strengths, hire your weaknesses. Like, I know me, I have a business, I have a business degree. I know accounting, I know double entry, I know how it works. I hate it, like, a lot. So I hire somebody who's better at it than I am.
And that's what makes it fun too, because you're learning every time you do that. That's why you hire the professionals to do that. The other one that I learned when I got into state government, became a public official, was something called COT. I walked in the door and I said, okay, let's paint the wall yellow and let's put blue, purple polka dots and let's do this, let's do that. 2 weeks later, my entire management staff just about melted down. I could see they're about ready to go into rehab. And I said, what's going on? I said, we can't do all that because when the king says old poop, everybody goes to the bathroom. So you want to say something that it was just an idea. So we came up with this theory that if I put action required on a memo, that means you better do it. That's job changing. The second was FYI, for your information. Well, everybody does that. So next time we meet, you should know about this. But the third, which I started using a lot, and they learned how to use it and pass it down to their employees, was COT, C-O-T, which means consider or throw away. That means if you're in the middle of a big conversion in IT and you see something come from me and it says COT, just delete it. It's just I needed to get it off my chest. And all of a sudden, it becomes a very much higher creative process for everyone because you can, when you're having a face-to-face, you don't want any judgment. Back to no judgment. This is just a consider or throw away. I don't want to have you say, great idea, because I'm the boss. No, I want you to say, okay, and walk away because you want to consider all these ideas to get that bushel basket filled and try to write things down. And obviously, most people do. And when they do that, to put it down, which I think is cool. But you're talking about Kevin O'Leary. There's another gentleman on Shark Tank that I had the opportunity, Damon John, and he had probably my favorite second thought. Once you're successful, the hardest thing you and I have to do is figuring out how the heck to relax. What do I do? He said that he keeps a list at night before he goes to bed and he looks at it for tomorrow. And then he wakes up in the morning and changes it again. I said, well, that's interesting. You get all those $1 million ideas. He said, no. He said, those are the 5 things I'm going to do that makes me happy. And I thought, whoa. Well, I mean, that is really novel that because if you're happy when you wake up today and you're going to work and you're happy, you're going to exude that and you're going to make other people join you and be successful. And it's just a whole different concept. And the first thing you think about is I got to get that one project done, right? Yeah. Oh, the other thought that I heard was from Life is Good. The people have the weird T-shirt with a smiley face on the front that I've seen. I heard them talking. They talked about that they had all the young millennials coming in. I have to get to this business. I have to go to this meeting. Blah. And they called everyone and said, we're stopping that. No more have to. We're going to say get to. So when they walk in the meeting, the disposition, the positive feeling turned around because they'd say, I get to be at the meeting because one, I'm valued enough to come in. They want my opinion. I get to do this. I get to this. So if you ever use I have to, if you change it to I get to, you'll find your attitude changes completely.
I made that change and it really was a game changer for me because there's that moments where it's just you're slogging through something and you're in what I call the suck and you got to go through it,
Absolutely.
But being able to say, I get to go do this. I get to go get this project done. I get to help this person do this. Totally different. That, and instead of saying, I don't have time, I say it's not a priority. Totally changed my world.
I love it.
Because sometimes it is
great idea. And just the interaction like this, being able to talk and hear what others' successes, being around people with success, success garners success, really does help. And there are so many fun people and things that you can hear, listen, and again, with podcasts like this and other things, that's how to grow. And it's pretty exciting.
Exactly. I'm a very, very strong believer, and I put into action, your network is your net worth. And it's not because I want to be around a whole bunch of powerful people with big names and things like that. It's because I want to see the cool stuff they're doing. And I want to be a part of that. And then, like you said earlier, where it's like, let's just bring all of these ideas together, get a room of entrepreneurs together, and you will change the world because we all have that thought. We'll put something in here. They'll put something in here. We all have our little areas of expertise. And it really turns into amazing things. And it goes back to a quote by Steve Jobs. Then I'm going to just kind of paraphrase and take some creative license, but we're the ones who are crazy enough to change the world.
Wouldn't it be fun? Here's a business that'd be fun is to get Steve and you and all the real creative people have breakfast every morning and then let nonprofits or even companies pay you to get an hour's worth of ideas, to get that bucket full of 100 ideas from the people who really have done it, because we all love to create those ideas. And when it's not our money doing it, somebody else is doing it, it really gets fun.
I have this idea. This is just like one of those wild and crazy ideas you come up with at about 2:00 in the morning, because this is how we roll.
Absolutely. Do you write them down? I mean, that's the time. Do you have a pen by your bed? That's a real key there.
I do, actually.
Well, that I think most great people do, because I forget it the next morning, especially at my age.
Or I'll wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning with 1,000 good ideas, and there is not a snowball's chance in hell I'm getting back to bed again before I get them down somewhere.
That's right.
That happens too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But my idea was I want to create, like, we see these like 55 plus, apartment villages and things like that. And none of them really light my fire. I probably won't get into any one of them, but I want to create one with entrepreneurs who have exited businesses. Think about the conversations around dinner
Absolutely. Think of the
with all
things
these entrepreneurs with a huge amount of experience behind them. Like, it would turn into this gigantic retirement think tank thing.
and we'd all be figuring out, how do we live better while living there? How do we
Exactly.
get the toilet to do? Hey, let me give you my two quick ideas, because I don't
Yes,
want to
please
forget
do.
them. Can I do that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Number one, when we changed from, we were Powerball state, and when Mega Millions and Powerball did a deal during the recession in 2008, they asked me to think of some ways to market Mega Millions. And I was driving home, I looked up and there was the moon. I could see the white side, this side, the dark side over there. Oh my God, let's get a laser and let's beam up the jackpot for Mega Millions. We could own the moon as a billboard. So I called my friends at my university, and they hung up on me, thought I was too kooky. So I called at the University of Iowa, the astrophysicist, and he said, well, you got to get through the atmosphere first, it would all dissipate. So I figure, if anybody knows Elon Musk, if we could get a big spotlight on one of his satellites, we might be able to own the moon for a billboard on the dark side of the moon that we see. So there's number one. So if anybody knows that, think about it. Number two is, I had a call from a small town that said nobody comes off the interstate. They're an eighth of a mile off the interstate. And so they said, what could we do to get people off? So I thought, well, you need gas, but every stop has gas. You need restaurants, every has restaurant. What about bathrooms? Well, might have bathrooms, but they don't have clean bathrooms. They're really nice. So let's build a big building. Let's fill it full of bathrooms. We'll get Gerber to decorate each one differently. You have country, you have modern, see all their new stuff. They can do research. Charmin will provide the toilet paper, different kinds of toilet paper, and do research on that. We'll sell Tootsie Rolls, Baby Ruths, all of those sort of things. We'll have an outhouse for pictures with dogs' place to go. T-shirts, I got PO'd in Stewart. I got pooped out in Stewart. Areas to rest there. You'd have everybody in. You get a king come sit on the throne. You'd have every late night show be able to come down. So somewhere there's a place that someone needs, because everybody wants clean restrooms, needs to hang on to that. And let's see if we can make that $1 million idea. And the best part of where this was the exit was 88. So you could do Burma shave signs all over America saying, urinate at exit 88. There's two ideas for you. How about that?
Love that. And, it's actually crazy enough to work, because if you think about Wall Drug and they publicize ice water. And I literally down the street from me, I saw Wall Drug, 1,465 miles. I'm like, what?
When we were at the zoo, they kept saying we got to spend $2 million to put a new exhibit in. That's why we don't have people coming through. And I said, well, what do we have free? And we looked around, we had animal poop. So we did an exhibit called Scoop on Poop. And all the little kids would come in, oh, there's a tiger poop, and there's giraffe poop, and all. They'd tell their friends, and we immediately cash flowed the joint with everybody else coming in. And we found out that tiger poop would actually repel white-tailed deer in Iowa. Now, they've never seen a tiger, but it's predator-prey deal. So we started selling tiger poop for $20 a bucket. We made about 25 grand that summer.
That is creative. That is super creative.
I
love that. I love that. And I love the creative ways that we can come up with to make money and to find different solutions to problems. And that one,
no matter how big or small, there's always a better way to do something. That's kind of the philosophy that I would end with all of this, because in fact, I saw in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, there was a box on the back of the toilet, and it had a hole in it. It said waste reducing exfoliant. What the heck is this? What's going on? Then I realized this was an accountant deal, where the accountants were saving the money, because they realized that when you go into a hotel, you only use about that much on the outside of a bar of soap. But if they punched a hole in the middle, they would only need half the soap, because you don't use it all. Yeah. And they took that and put it on the sink. Now they only needed 1 bar of soap, and they reduced their numbers by 50%.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. I love that. That's just creative ways. Creative problem solving. That's one of the many reasons I love being an entrepreneur, is the creative problem solving. But
absolutely.
Now we're getting towards the end of things here. I do have one question I ask everyone, and that is, what is one book or podcast that has had a significant impact on your life?
Well, I think when I did this lottery fraud, I had a podcast that I participated in. I started listening to them, and it's all, in this case, about big money. And Sony Music has a podcast that they did with me. And when I listened to it, it had all the extra music and sound and all of the things that, really make it a production. I thought, wow, I even listened to it and thought it was pretty interesting to myself. And I thought, no, that's kind of interesting because most people don't like to hear themselves anyway. So I'd say that's what it is, Ed.
Interesting. So Sony podcast. So Sony's Music's podcast.
Yes.
All right. We'll have to take a look at it. I've not heard of that one before, but it will be on my list. Terry, it has been truly entertaining. We could probably go on for another hour if we needed to. We could, but
you also didn't call me a son of a rich when it was all done. So
a son of a rich.
Yeah. Terry Rich, of course.
I love it, man. You have an awesome rest of the day. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate you.
All right. Good talking to you.
Good talking to you, man.
Thanks again for joining us on the Hustle and Grind podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Terry, check out the link in the description.